lose at home against Ikea by 2-1. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we? Former US international Casey Keller is with us. Casey, your big takeaway from today?
Well, I think there was moments with some of the young players, guys that maybe are in the squad that we didn't expect to be in this squad, and they did well. But I think what do we keep seeing from the U.S. team is making mistakes in situations where they don't need to make mistakes, and gifting opportunities their opponents and throwing things away. And I think that's what we saw again. They had opportunities to get the equalizer. Tillman missed a chance they didn't show on the highlights, the point blank header from 5 yards out and hits it straight at the goalkeeper. So yeah, there was opportunities where this side could find ways to get results. And instead, this side found ways to lose matches. And I think that's one of the biggest disappointments, because there were moments. Great start. I thought they pressed Turkey very well, made things difficult for them. They struggled to get out of the back. But then to give 2 goals away and then not be able to get that equalizer and push on from there, it kind of shows, where this side's at. Zero confidence and zero ability to find ways to get results at the moment.
Ali, you were getting more and more frustrated watching this with us as the game went on.
I'll tell you who had didn't have an opportunity, I should say, is the deer behind Casey. Zero chance.
Yes, it dropped quick.
Wow. Wow. Oh, no. In any case, all I would say is the United States, they started the game off as well as you could possibly hope for. What was really disappointing was that once they gave up the first goal in the manner in which they did, and that in itself was disappointing, is the reaction or lack thereof from the United States. In fact, they never got a hold of the ball and the remaining of that first half after that goal from Arda Güler. Yes, it's a mistake. Mistakes are going to happen. How do you react from those mistakes? You want to see responses from a younger team. And if you're Pochettino and you're evaluating, you kind of go, I don't know that I have a lot of answers. And the mistakes are not coming from what we consider to be inexperienced players. Johnny Cardoso is a consistent performer for Betis in La Liga. Should not be giving the ball away in that sort of position. Regardless, it happened, and then you started to figure out, okay, who is it that is going to show for the ball? Who is it that is going to give you something building out of the back? Who is it that is going to be an outlet? And a lot of the players, instead of taking on that role, they started to disappear, and that's when Turkey took over. The beginning of the second half was better for the United States, and they did create the chances that Casey was talking about. But then it's a question of quality in front of goal. Jack McGlynn takes his goal really well. But in the second half, when he drives in top of the 18-yard box, and he is once again looking at goal and saying, okay, I have an opportunity in front of me, he doesn't see the full picture. Because if he had seen the full picture, he would have seen that their defense is closing him down, and that Ageman is open over here on the left-hand side, and that Tillman is open here on the left-hand side. Never got his head up. So then it becomes a question, as I mentioned before, of quality in those sort of moments. Not enough of that from the United States, and overall, not enough to overtake a team like Turkey that wasn't all that great. But when they had their 10, 15 minutes in the first half, they took a full advantage. They put the game away.
What's the biggest concern if you're Pochettino watching this?
I think it's what Ali was talking about, the reaction when things don't go your way. We saw that in the first 15 when things were going their way and everybody was at it and everybody was up for it. Then they looked as though they could produce something. But then Cardoso's mistake, there was no change in trying to defend or get the ball back quicker. When you lose a goal or when the opposition are on top, in my view as a coach, I'll change something or change things on the field for 5 or 10 minutes, bring the wide guys in, get everybody compact, make them go around there, affect the game. And there was nothing. The only reason they got back in the game is because half-time came and they got back in the dressing room. I was disappointed that Pochettino didn't do anything after they lost that first goal to make sure that they didn't lose the second. And then when they lost the second, he didn't do anything to make sure they didn't lose a third. Because as I said, the only reason they got back into it was because half-time came.
Feels like we sit here with the same sort of conversations after most US games at the moment, Shaq.
No question for me. And listen, given the changes that Pochettino's had to deal with, it's not a full-strength squad by any stretch of the imagination. But still, it's the same old conversations. And again, we've been talking for, it feels like 4 or 5 years as to who will lead the line for the US. And Agyemang is not the answer, granted. But Malik Tillman, after coming back from a really bad injury, has been outstanding for PSV over recent months. And there was an expectation that he would be the player playing in that number 10 role that would change things for the US in terms of that attacking thrust from midfield. Casey mentioned the missed chance from 5 or 6 yards, which really should have done better with. But other than that, I cannot remember hearing Malik Tillman's name all game long. I can't tell you what else he did. Now, for most of these players, they are squad players at best if we are talking about 2026. Malik Tillman was branded, or an expectation or hope was that he would come in and really make the US tick offensively. On today's showing, I'm sorry, I didn't see that evidence. And to be honest, kind of given that form we saw from PSV, I was hugely disappointed.
Who disappointed you today, Casey?
I guess I was a little disappointed in the fact that they did some things kind of more as a team. I liked the energy. I think Stevie mentioned it there. The first 15 minutes, they pressed. They made things difficult for Turkey to kind of play out of the back and be comfortable. I liked that when they did win possession in midfield, that they were aggressive at running at Turkey's back line. I think in the last few matches we saw situations where everything was very slow and methodical, and this looked like there was a little bit more urgency. And I thought the disappointment, I agree with Shaka. I thought Tillman had opportunities to really express himself. I think Agyemang had opportunities where maybe a touch let him down in the final third. Clearly, I'm disappointed in Johnny Cardoso and to concede the goal the way they did when they were doing as well as they were. Because, when you're in a situation when you have a bunch of young players and you have people who are looking to take advantage of maybe given an opportunity that they didn't feel they or necessarily should have gotten, but because of injuries and because of different situations and players' absence, because of Club World Cup or because of whatever strange reason we seem to be hearing often too much with this national team of why players aren't in, you look at someone like a Cardoso to say, okay, come in and prove that you really belong and that your club form can transition to your national team form. And then to make that kind of mistake and really change the game the way it did from one of the most experienced players on the pitch, that's disappointing.
3 straight defeats now, huh?
Yeah. Beyond the defeats, what would trouble me is that you're looking for answers if you're Pochettino. And you're wanting to have players take a step forward and say, hey, that guy's injured all the time. He doesn't show up to the national team all the time. He wants a break. I'm here. I'll do the job. I'll be the guy. And there have been ample opportunities to do that for a select group of players. And Pochettino has opened sort of the spectrum of the national team to a whole lot, to a bigger number of players. And I think he makes that decision because he's still searching. He's still looking. If you were settled on a group of players, you're not opening the whole spectrum of players to everybody, the whole pool of players for everybody. But it feels like he's saying, I don't think that those guys that are always around have been all that great. To your point, 3 losses in a row, they start piling up. And there's only so much that you can say about, well, this is preparation for this is preparation for that. We're thinking about the World Cup in 2026. This is all part of the growth and the process. And okay, we can talk about the process all we want, but eventually you have to start winning games. Because part of the process, in the end, is that you're going to be defined by winning. Not by how well you did in your preparation against Turkey. You don't win these matches, it starts piling up, and I don't know how much pressure there really is on Mauricio Pochettino and this national team, but you have to see steps forward, and you're not seeing it individually from the players that have been given opportunities, and you're not seeing as a group from now a team that has been together enough time to see what is the impact and the input of Mauricio Pochettino. We're not seeing that just yet.
The team had gone.
In some ways, we've got to give Pochettino a little bit of slack here, because I don't believe that he knows what his 11 is.
He wouldn't have any other slack, though, if he was in charge of Argentina, if he was in charge of England, if he was in charge of Scotland.
But
you lose against Canada, you lose against Panama.
You're sitting here asking Ali, well, he's got to start winning games. He doesn't even have an 11 yet. He doesn't even have an 11.
I said that's 3 defeats in a row.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because the US is the way that it is, he's not under the same pressure that he would be in pretty much any other country.
What I'm saying is, they don't have 11 players that are good enough, right?
But you want to give him slack.
Listen, he doesn't put his boots on and go out and play. You know, and I gave him a little bit of criticism about the first half when they lost the goal. I want to see him doing something. But ultimately, he's got to pick a team that's going to win a game. And he doesn't have 11 players that he can rely on. He doesn't have 11 players that he's probably got 4 players that are guaranteed that are starting. After that, he's like...
But surely as a coach, that's your job, isn't it? To find the starting 11.
Because you can't turn water into wine. Well, you know, if you don't have things at your disposal... If you look at the
starting 11 of Panama, if you look at the starting 11 of Canada... then in theory, the US should have better individual players that as a coach you need to bring together.
But they don't, and that's why I'm saying right now we've got to give him a bit of slack, because he doesn't have an 11. He doesn't have an 11. You go to talk about Canada. I bet you right now, Jesse Marsch knows exactly his starting 11. He knows exactly what he's going to do with them. Every time they come in, he knows what he's going to do in training. He knows what to work on. I don't think Pochettino right now knows 11 players
he has. He's had 9 games, surely, to sort this out.
And he still doesn't know his 11. That tells you what he's got at his disposal.
So you would give a pass to anyone?
I'm not saying I'm giving him a pass.
Well, that's exactly what
I'm saying I'm giving him a little bit of slack, because in order to get results, you need to have a team that you can put on the field and give them orders to do certain things.
Which is your job to find out which individuals.
But they don't have players capable of doing it.
What, of that whole
you don't want to hear it.
So the
you
whole
just don't want to hear it.
All these individuals are outclassed by Panama. They're a better team.
I'm just telling you, they don't. You can talk about what they are on paper all day, but they're not.
But if I'm paying my manager $3 million, $4 million a year, whatever it is, then that is your job to find the 11 individuals that can come together as a team
right.
and put in better performances that we've seen so far.
Right. And what was the first thing I said?
But you're giving him a pass.
What was the first thing I said? He doesn't have an 11 yet.
But that's your job to find the 11.
But that's what he's doing right now. He's trying to find
failing every time.
He's trying to find an 11.
He's failing every time. And if it's any other country...
If they're not good enough, then what's he supposed to do?
They are good enough, surely.
No, they're not.
Why not?
Hold on. Have you been watching the US over the last 18 months, 2 years?
But what I don't get is that you're giving him a pass because he hasn't found the players...
I'm giving him some slack because he doesn't have an 11 that he can rely on. And how many players has he tried since he came in? I bet it's a ridiculous amount. And that's why. I'm just telling you right now, they don't have an 11. They can step on the field unless they're playing... It gets him nervous.
That just sounded personal.
When was the last time you stepped on the field and you went, oh, they're definitely going to win?
What it feels like to me is it feels like he's going through these camps like it's the first camp after a World Cup. And 3 of your starters have retired. A couple of them, are going to be too old. You got some young kids coming through. And to Stevie's point, I mean, yes, to both Stevie's point and to your point, Dan, is they should know. He should have a better idea, but he keeps thinking that, oh, this guy's going to come good, or this guy's going to be fit, or let's see what this guy does. Then he drops out of camp, and then this guy puts his hand up and says, no, I want to break this summer. And then he brings some kids in, and then maybe they're not quite there, or maybe they show a little bit in this match, but then don't do anything there. So yeah, it just really feels like a camp that should be 3.5 years before a World Cup, not the summer before a World Cup. And I think that's very worrying that you really don't know what your squad is, who your players are, who are your 2 center back pairings, who's your striker going to be, who's going to show some fight for me, who's going to come into this camp and tell me that I really want to be in this squad. And there is still more questions than answers with this men's national team. And I think, and to your point though, Dan, and by the way, it's $6 million that he's being paid to get this right.
So I thought it was my wage. His wage. I always get those two mixed up.
Yeah, you always get that confused.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. So yes, that is the question. There has to be pressure under Pochettino, breaking the bank to be that difference for the national team. And again, like you said, there's still a lot of questions.
Two things from today that are concerning. One, when Pochettino is giving his interview at halftime, he kept mentioning the word emotional, the emotion of this, the emotion of that, the emotion of giving up the goal, the manner in which we did, and not being able to handle the emotions in those 10, 15 minutes after that. Well, you're right there in the sidelines, and if you are so enamored with the idea that, look, it's important to take care of the emotions of this team when things are not going their way, then that is a message that has to be shared with the players. And stop messing with the ball around here when you're not showing in good positions, when now the passing lanes are closing down, because obviously you're not as confident as you were at the beginning of the game. The message from the manager can be just as simple. Hey, you see the big guy over there, that Aguiman guy? Send it over there. Have him hold it up. Allow us to take a step forward. Let us see that there is an adjustment so that you can get through this bad patch of a match, and then you move on. But don't come back after you've already given up 2 goals and say, well, we couldn't handle the emotions. You as a manager should be handling the emotions as well.
And just to chip in, what he's talking about there, playing it forward to Aguiman, and the thing he came out with was to hold it up, and you've got a centre forward that can't hold the ball. Good luck getting out. Good luck changing in it.
Now, on a big picture from today, the second thing that I was going to get to was, while you're still searching for that 11 that you're talking about, Stevie, at some point, I believe that it's fair to demand from this group and Mauricio Pochettino that they should be beating teams like Panama. They should. Regardless of who this mix of players here and there, and take this guy and take that guy, bring this guy in, put that guy over there, put this guy over here. They should be better than Panama. And I agree that right now, Canada seems like on a different level entirely than the United States. But they should be better than where they are right now. And that, I think, is the takeaway, that they seem to be behind the curve, and time keeps going on, and time keeps on ticking, and they can't quite catch up to the curve.
Did you want to add anything, Chat?
No.
So, Casey, just one last thing. Looking ahead to the game in Nashville, obviously, against Switzerland on Tuesday, what changes do you make? What would you like to see?
I think it'll look more like what they expect maybe the starting lineup to start the Gold Cup will be. I wouldn't be surprised if Adam starts from the front. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Turner. I think it'll look like a more, probably the majority of the experience that he has in this camp, I think will start in that match. Just to try to build a little bit of momentum going in there. I think this still has a feel of looking at people. Guys are on trial, still trying to figure out, what that squad is going to look like going forward. But I think what we've also seen, Dan, is we have no idea what this is going to look like, because there has been zero consistency. And people ask me sometimes, just, hey, why is there no consistency? And I think to Stevie's point, there's no consistency because nobody is showing the coaching staff that this is my position, that here's my chance, I'm going to take it. I think Diego Luna was one of the few guys that did that in the last camp, and then didn't necessarily have a type of game today that solidifies that position. So I still think, again, there's still, let's see how this goes. Let's see what this partnership looks like. Let's see what this guy looks like out wide. Let's see what this guy looks like up front. So I still think it's a lot of still trying to play different combinations to see if anything can actually stick.
There is speculation still, little bits and pieces suggesting that Pochettino is still on the radar of Spurs, of course, who are looking for a new manager. Goodbye, mate. Spurs fury at Postecoglou axe. The back pages summing up, of course, the sacking that we discussed yesterday of Ange Postecoglou from Spurs. Casey, as a former Tottenham player, what says you?
Well, it didn't surprise me. I think it just kind of surprised me that he was there as long as he was after the difficulties in the league. Now, granted, there was a lot of circumstances of that with the amount of injuries that Tottenham had, and then it was the idea of, okay, let's not upset anything while we're still in Europe, and clearly that worked out really well, winning Europa League and having that success. And I think maybe some people felt like, okay, let's give Ange, an opportunity next season because of this European success, but then it didn't happen. And you're seeing the headlines of what you're having, the players and their comments of what they were having and how, Ange was a player's coach, and clearly the poor league form just kind of caught up to him, and Daniel Levy made a move.
Did he make the right move, Casey?
Well, when you look at the amount of managers that have been in and out of Spurs, in under Daniel's tenure, and then you look at sides that have had success, it's not because you're changing managers, once or twice a season. So time will tell if Tottenham and Daniel Levy can get it right.
Casey.
I was waiting for that.
Well,
Would you have sacked
hoping,
him?
Dan, obviously, as an ex-Spurs player, I want to see some level of consistency, and it looked like under Pochettino that maybe that consistency was finally coming. And then when they decided to part ways,
Would you have sacked him, Casey?
Pochettino at that stage or Big Ange?
But not Pochettino, no, Ange.
No, I think I would have given him, after European success, given him at least until Christmas, another transfer window, get more of the squad back with the injuries, struggles that they had, to see if they can bring some of that consistency that has really struggled Tottenham over the last 20 years.
Casey says Daniel Levy out of his mind to sack Postecoglou.
I'm stuck right in the middle with this one. I really am, because when you look...
If you say time will tell, you're out.
Time will tell.
Time will tell, Dan. Time will tell.
I promise I won't say time will tell. I already said it. I'm really stuck with this because from about 18 months ago, in terms of the Premier League, it has just gone from there, just down the pan. And because you win a second-rate European tournament, that is enough to forget about how bad that has been for 18 months. So I think I'm probably just on Daniel Levy's side.
Right.
But I understand the romance of he's won a trophy. Maybe it's an upturn, but yeah, I think at the end of the day.
Wow.
Look at him.
Look at him right now.
Thomas Frank makes sense?
No.
Why not?
Well, because Thomas Frank at Brentford, the players that Brentford sign are signed on a data, how far they run. It's all data based.
Not
and
data,
he doesn't.
Data.
Correct.
Wow.
That's what we say in Scotland. I don't know what Cornwall. So all the players that they sign have nothing to do with the manager. Right. I'm not so sure. Well, that's not how it works at Tottenham, I believe. So Thomas Frank's getting taken out of his comfort zone in terms of going to Tottenham. So I don't see how it works. I just don't see how it works.
You know what, Stevie?
Time will tell.
Indeed it will. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. It's the Nations League final on Sunday, and it's decent. Portugal taking on Spain. Of course, we saw that brilliant semi-final, 5-4 between Spain and France. Portugal, meanwhile, coming from behind to beat Germany by 2-1. Alex Kirkland joins us. Alex, I suppose from a Spanish point of view, the obvious question is, how seriously are they taking this?
Yeah, from listening to Luis de la Fuente, the coach, talk about it extremely seriously. He's kind of berated any journalists who've sort of dared to question the importance of the Nations League. Of course, their last Nations League success has been a big part of building this team and making it what it is now. I think seriously, and we saw that certainly for most of that game against France. Yes, they kind of dropped away a bit towards the end and conceded some goals they shouldn't have, but overall the performance was of a team taking it extremely seriously. And like I say, the coach, no question, he values this tournament. He says this is an extremely difficult tournament to win, and they'd love to win it.
Well, of course they would, and it would help fuel the conversation around a certain 17-year-old winning the Ballon d'Or. No debate, says the front page of Sport. Lamine Mania, the front page of Mundo Deportivo, of course, both Barcelona newspapers.
You're Spanish, next level.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm on it today, fear not. Alexis not as good at Spanish, but she had a go at speaking to Kun Agüero about Lamine Yamal.
Yo creo que hoy Lamine Yamal está en un nivel muy bueno, muy importante. Es un pibe que parece, yo hablé con él algunas veces y es un pibe muy tranquilo y con la edad que tiene, nada, hay que sacarse el sombrero porque bueno, no muchos chicos con esta fama que él tiene lo llevan bien, ¿no? Entonces, sobre todo por el talento que tiene. Pero bueno, es hoy el jugador que por ahí estoy disfrutando verlo, ¿no?
Meanwhile, Alex, let's talk about Ter Stegen, shall we? And talk about what's going on at Barcelona with the first choice goalkeeper or not, or where we stand on him.
It's the impression we're getting is that Ter Stegen might well be on the way out of Barcelona. So not first choice, not second choice, but gone potentially because they're moving for Joan Garcia, who was the best goalkeeper in La Liga with Espanyol last season. It looks like that deal is going to happen now. Of course, it'd be a controversial deal because Barca and Espanyol are bitter rivals, but it looks like he wants to stay in the city of Barcelona. He's not fussed about sort of some of the reaction there would be in the city for him signing for Espanyol's rivals. And if Joan Garcia arrives, like I say, having just been the best goalkeeper in La Liga last season, he's arriving to play. He's arriving to be first choice. So if he comes in, he would be first choice for Barcelona. And Wojciech Szczesny, it looks like he's going to stay for another year. He would be second choice and be happy with that role, having come out of retirement in the first place to join Barca. And that leaves no room for Ter Stegen. And Ter Stegen is one of Barcelona's high earners, earns a lot of money. It would make financial sense for them to move him on. There's a lot of reports coming out of Barcelona as well over the last few days that the club weren't too happy with how Ter Stegen came back from that long-term injury, which kept him out for most of the season. Not just because on the pitch, when he played, he didn't look great, but also because of what sort of happened off the pitch. There's a feeling that he sort of was putting pressure on Hansi Flick, on the coach, to bring him back into the team when he thought that he was fit and ready, even though Szczesny had been doing well. Of course, Flick chose to stick with Szczesny, certainly in the big games in the Champions League, in those semi-finals in the second leg in particular. Didn't go for Ter Stegen. There's some reports that didn't go down too well with Flick or with the club. And like I say, that some of Ter Stegen's attitude, aside from his performances when he came back, weren't to the liking of Flick and to the club. And so all that's contributed to them going for Joan Garcia. And like I say, if Joan Garcia comes in, they want Szczesny to stay as well as backup. That would mean finding an exit for Ter Stegen. That might not be easy, like I say, given the money that he's on. But I mean, Ter Stegen is going to want to play. And so if it's clear that he's not going to play under Flick, it would make sense for everyone, I think, for him to move.
Shaka.
Listen, it makes sense to move Ter Stegen on at this point. Given the season that Szczesny had and the old cliche, possession is 9/10 of the law, you see Szczesny being ahead of him, certainly in that regard. And then, to Alex's point, the big question becomes around moving Ter Stegen on. At 33 years old, coming back from a serious injury, certainly not featuring prominently for pretty much an entire season. Who takes that chance on someone like Ter Stegen right now, given the money that he'll be looking for? So it's easy for Barcelona to say that they're moving him on. I think it'll be more difficult for them to find, or for him to find a liable landing spot. But given the signing of Garcia, given the form of Szczesny, you're very heavily loaded in goalkeeping department if Ter Stegen stays.
Might work out though for Barcelona. World Cup year. Ter Stegen's going to want to play, obviously. And if they say to him, look, you're third basically in the pecking order, obviously he's going to have to move on. So in that sense, it might be easier to offload him than it would on other seasons.
I'm afraid I'm with Shaka. 33-year-old, the money he's on, coming back from an injury. He's come back and he has played, and he hasn't played very well. I'm not so sure. There's not going to be a queue at the door, I don't think. I really don't. And the fact that they're now questioning his attitude, that makes it even harder. So I'm not so sure that there's going to be a queue.
Do you not think so?
I don't think so, no.
There's a telltale sign that this was getting out of the hands, literally, of Ter Stegen, when he's the only one talking. He's the only one actually either defending his position of Barcelona or questioning his position of Barcelona or saying that he expects to be back at Barcelona. And the club is saying nothing. If the club were sure that Ter Stegen was going to be their number one, nothing to see here. You just come out and say, no, there's no competition here. Chesney will go back to the beach. We'll bring in John Garcia. It's no issue. Ter Stegen is number one. But the club has said nothing. Mute. They've said nothing. And they've left Ter Stegen talking all by himself, which tells you that the club is saying, I think we may just move on.
Yeah.
And in the club moving on, now it becomes the responsibility of the player because of a World Cup year, because of the fact that in the latest Germany game, he was the starter for Germany. Finally, Manuel Neuer seems to be out of the picture. It seems to be his chance with Germany. You have to play.
Meanwhile, for Real Madrid, let's talk about an addition to their squad, shall we, Alex? Mastantuono from Argentina. A lot of excitement about this youngster. What's being said there? We know Real Madrid love a teenager.
Yeah, really exciting, and it looks like this is close to being done. Our information is they're just working on some of the final details of the deal in terms of how this 45 million fee would be paid. Of course, Madrid want to be in installments rather than paying it all in one go, and also when he would arrive. As you say, he's incredibly talented, 17 years old. Madrid have been tracking him, I think, for 2 years. Initially, there was some discussion of him maybe leaving River as late as next January, be able to stay at River to play not just the Club World Cup, but the Libertadores as well. After that, there was then discussion of, well, will he move in August when he turns 18? Of course, FIFA rules in general don't allow transfers, international transfers for under the age of 18. However, our information is that Madrid have looked at potentially trying to bring him in ahead of the Club World Cup, exploiting a loophole, which would be he has an Italian passport, and there are some precedents for cases where, on that basis, a move could be made before he turns 18. The clock is ticking on that. There may not be time, but that was what Madrid would like to do. I think River and the player as well would quite like to play that tournament with River before moving in August. So a few details still to be worked out, but no, really exciting. One of the sort of most talented players of his age in world football. Like I said, Madrid have tracked him for a long time. Their interest then sort of faded a little bit. It then came back into the picture in the last couple of weeks because there was some strong interest from PSG. They wanted him, and that sort of forced Madrid's hand and forced them to act now.
When you look at Real Madrid's squad, Ali, you don't exactly think, I'll tell you what they need, another attacker to throw in the mix.
Another left-sided attacker to throw in the mix. Another sort of in-between player that is not quite a striker, kind of a winger, but also can play on the inside. Oh, wait a minute. All right. You do have Arda Güler, right?
Yes, I believe so. I think he was playing against the US.
For Turkey.
Yes,
he was.
Yeah.
Brahim Diaz.
Yeah.
Is he still around?
Yeah.
Apparently he's still around, at least for now anyways. And then you think about the left side of Real Madrid, and that is populated by Vini Jr. all by himself. And so you start thinking, well, where is the space for this kid to play? Well, certainly not immediately. But when you're planning and building a club and building the structure of a club, if you already have two players that occupy that space, and Arda Güler and Brahim Diaz, what is the point?
Right.
Unless you think that this guy is a mind-blowing talent that you are willing to ignore while you already have in front of you. I don't know what kind of message you're sending to these other players, and I also don't think that you're looking at what your needs are as a club. You look at that back line, you look at the balance of the midfield, that's where Real Madrid should be investing. Instead, we're looking at attacking players.
Alex, we'll let you go. What are you doing this summer, Alex? You coming here? What's going on? You Club World Cup in?
I'll be there. Yeah, I'm coming for the Club World Cup. Yeah.
Swing by, come and say hello.
Oh, sure.
Why not? Stevie's new house.
Yes.
Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Shaka, Ali, and Stevie all alongside.
Which Ali? Which Ali?
Yes, so we put the picture of Ali Krieger up.
Which I think is accurate, and therefore that means I ain't coming.
So your boy went to the game today.
Yes.
It's very close.
Yes.
Did you call in a favour? Did you manage to get him
Yeah.
free ticket? Who did you call? Who do you know that wants to help?
I'm a social butterfly. I got friends.
Really?
Yes, I do, Dan.
Wow.
You're not one of them, but I have friends.
Who did you call to get that freebie?
I meant to get you to call him to see if he's still in the car park.
Oh yeah, the car park's going to be quite... Anyway, Stevie, we had this conversation yesterday about you accidentally wearing your slippers to Nora's lunch.
Yeah.
And that brought the story about you wearing Eleanor's trousers on the bus.
Oh, yeah.
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 Shaka brought up at the time, why would you even admit it? Why would you even say, look at these trousers?
Because you can't. Well, the problem is, right, when you're walking around, and if you don't have a jacket on, I don't know about you, but gentlemen's pants don't zip up the butt. So I thought it would be a better idea to get it out in the open, give everybody a laugh,
Yes.
and then...
But Michael...
Because I was going to have to take my jacket off eventually, right?
So when you were zipping up the back, did
Did that dawn on you?
I didn't have anything else.
you did have to zip
You made a
yourself up.
choice.
I
You
no,
made a choice.
I didn't have a choice.
So this was post-match. You've got to get...
No, so pre-game, right? I'm in the
Yes.
hotel room.
Okay.
I go in the cupboard. I've got my jacket and my shirt and tie.
Yes.
And my pants. Put my shirt and tie on, and then I go to put my pants on. I'm like, hold on a minute. And then I'm like, what's the zip? Then I go sit at the back, and I went, oh no, put a pair of Elmer's pants in instead.
So wait, so first of all, you put your shirt and tie on before your pants.
Here's the thing.
You get fully dressed before you put your
So
pants.
here's the thing though, so I'm thinking, right, nobody will notice because I'll have my jacket on, right?
Okay.
So I get on the bus and then I'm sat on the bus and we're about to leave and I went, oh, I'm going to have to take my jacket off so everybody's going to see me back.
Yeah, but you're sat down. Surely the back is up against the base of a bus seat.
Yeah, but when I get off the bus and go in,
Well, why can't
I'm
you
going to
put
have to take my jacket off.
Well, put your jacket on.
Well, I can't walk around all day with my jacket on, can I?
Why? Well, I don't know why.
Well, because I'm going to have to take it off, innit? In the dressing room.
Right. Well, surely no one's looking at you in the dressing room. You could have done it subtly.
Well, see, here's the thing you don't get. Getting on the
This
bus.
is the part that you don't get.
This is the part you just don't understand, Dad.
I don't know about anybody else's football club, but at Liverpool at the time, if you had a dodgy tie, a dodgy jacket,
Women's
if there was-
trousers.
women's trousers, if there was anything that stood out, whether it was a good or a bad thing,
Yes.
you got absolutely slaughtered.
Right.
And so that's why I was never getting away with it.
so you owned it.
One initial question, and I think it's important. When you first put the pants on, the first time that you put the pants on that day, did you not realize that it was a woman's pants?
Well, when I was putting them on, I got the zip at the back. So initially I'm thinking, I've got it the wrong way
you
around.
packed the bag without realizing. Get to the hotel.
I was thinking that at home you got yourself dressed and said, yeah, sure, let's go with this.
No, I'm in the hotel. We're away from
Where
home.
you're getting that wrong, Ali, is that's what normal people would do. That's where you went wrong.
So I had no choice.
So then the question that came in today is, have you accidentally worn any other of Eleanor's clothes?
No.
Besides her pants?
No.
So take us back to yesterday and how you messed this up so bad.
Well, because we've just moved house, right?
Yes.
We're getting in the habit.
Wearing slippers everywhere?
No. So the slippers are in the garage,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So whether we take the dog out or coming back from anywhere, we're going through the garage really. And so what I do is I take my trainers off and put my slippers on into the house, and then it doesn't dirty the floors
Makes
or anything.
sense. Makes sense.
Consider it.
You're right.
Consider it.
Yeah.
Good.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, yesterday morning when I was driving up to Boston,
Yes.
I forgot to take my slippers off and put the trainers on before I get in the car.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was half an hour driving on my way to Boston, I realised I still had my slippers on.
And then what was Nora's reaction?
She never even noticed.
No?
No.
None of the kids know?
Well, they don't care.
No, that's true. No, they do. A lot wear slippers anyway to
Well,
school.
exactly. So
Just-
they actually didn't
You're
bother.
just joining in the trend, Stevie. If you didn't send me the picture, no one would know.
Well, I thought you'd find it funny. That's
Well,
what
I
I thought.
did find it brilliant. And we got the Eleanor story out of it as well. Everyone's a winner. Jan Arga-Fjortov messaged in, have England finally justified their favourite position for the World Cup next year after their win against Andorra? Thomas Tuchel wasn't happy afterwards, yeah?
Was he not?
No, he wants more effort.
Get Pochettino, I see.
Well, yes, he's done really well. Stevie, we heard Dan's idiotic
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Opinions discrediting Postecoglou. Can you tell him, for all the Tottenham fans, what a massive moron he is, and he's got no idea what it takes to win European silverware? So in case you didn't see,
Well, he's
in case you didn't see yesterday, I said the Europa League isn't even what it used to be, because obviously you've got the teams that don't filter down from the Champions League, and Spurs had a lovely run to the final.
Yes.
And they didn't really play anyone properly. It's nice they won a trophy, but it was a diluted trophy.
I mean, what did he call you? A massive moron.
a
No, he's not that wrong. He's not far off.
Right.
Well, is he massive moron or just moron?
What would you know?
Idiotic. So you would say that I'm wrong in that opinion?
No.
So I'm right.
Wait, listen.
So I'm right?
Listen. Even you can be right now and again.
Okay, so
when it comes to football.
I'm not a moron.
Well, that's a different question.
No.
That's a different question.
On this subject,
We have to establish
on this particular
what's
line.
the moron scale.
Yeah. On this particular
That's
line that you
important.
said
Yes.
about it's not even what it used to be.
Yes.
You're on this one occasion.
okay,
You're 100% correct.
so we'll take that then.
Yes.
With rumours surrounding who will be the next coach of Spurs, would it be wrong for Pochettino to leave the US job and take the Spurs job if offered?
Well, I don't think that job is going to be offered to Pochettino, and even if it were offered to Pochettino, I don't see why you would leave a national team that is about to host a World Cup in a year's time. That doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And oh, by the way, as Casey told us during the show, he is well compensated.
Yeah, 6 million.
$6 million's worth a year. So
What would you do? You'd stay?
Oh, I stay in the
Would you
United
stay
States.
or would you go?
I'd say, you know me, I'm loyalty.
Stevie?
Okay.
Stay. Shaka Stevie. Remember you guys were very critical when Arsenal signed Raya,
Yeah.
when they had Ramsdale. Will you be equally critical towards Slot and Flick now? Liverpool have Alisson, Mamardashvili. Barca have Ter Stegen, Szczesny, and are signing Garcia.
What?
Too many words in the question.
So I was critical because I didn't think Raya was much of an upgrade on Ramsdale.
Is he getting Kepa now, did I read?
Yeah. Which is another weird one. But anyway, I was critical because I didn't think Raya was much of an upgrade on Ramsdale. To his credit, Raya proved me wrong. And I stand corrected on that. So now I don't know what that has to do with Flick and Slot.
Well, I suppose, why are they bringing in Mamardashvili when they've got Alisson?
Mamardashvili's coming in. I don't think he takes Alisson's spot. So now Mamardashvili coming in to be Alisson's number 2, that's on him. That's,
Yeah.
you know, why he, if that's what he wants to do and he thinks, he's thinking longer term that eventually Alisson will lay down, that's on him. But if you could get a goalkeeper of Mamardashvili's quality to be your number 2, that's great for you. Similarly with Flick. And as we were discussing in the show, and Alex was saying, we don't think Ter Stegen, well, there's question marks as to where Ter Stegen will go, but Barcelona certainly don't seem intent on keeping him. So then again, you have 2 outstanding goalkeepers, one younger, one older, who'd already retired. It makes perfect sense.
Oh, that's quite a long answer.
Well, it was a kind of a weird question. A weird question.
Longer than saying Mamardashvili.
I was enjoying saying that. That's all it was.
Stevie?
If I remember rightly, the criticism was more about the treatment of Ramsdale. Yeah. And then the other thing we criticised heavily was the nonsense that the manager Arteta was coming out with about having 2 number 1s and how it was going to upset everybody. That's what we were criticising.
Yeah. Ali, how nervous are you for Venezuela's game on Tuesday against Uruguay?
Not very.
It's more about what the
Because he knows
what
you're
the
going to get
rest
beat.
do, isn't it?
Yes.
So
I think-
who would Bolivia have?
He knows
we
they're
know
gonna get
Venezuela
beat.
have. Who do Bolivia have?
So Bolivia have to play against Brazil.
Oh.
But their next matchup is at home against Chile, and Chile are right now the worst team in CONMEBOL. So here's what happens. If
4-point lead, though.
we have a 4-point lead, and that's why it was so critical to win this game against Bolivia, to maintain that separation. And then in the last couple of matches, Venezuela will play at Argentina and at home against Colombia, while Bolivia plays Brazil and plays Argentina. And so, what the thought process is that Venezuela has done enough to hang on to that seventh spot, because we're assuming that then Bolivia is going to be able to get results against Brazil. We assume that they'll beat Chile, but I just don't think that Bolivia has enough, critically important for Venezuela to have won this match, and will maybe, hopefully survive that seventh.
It's the hope.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that.
Who's your favourite to win the Club World Cup, Stevie?
No idea. I mean,
Oh, look.
What?
I didn't know we had the odds.
see, why
Real
Real
Madrid is my
Madrid?
favourite.
Why?
Because they're taking it seriously.
So how are you supposed to make a?
Stevie, I don't think you have to take it this seriously. It's okay.
Just pick a
Right.
name.
It's not like
Just pick a
picking
name.
which pants to wear.
That was a difficult choice.
This is a lot easier. I must admit, yeah. Real Madrid.
Okay.
So could you have put your Eleanor's pants on back to front and zip it up the front? Could you have done that?
Well, that would have made it a very uncomfortable pants situation.
It depends how
I
high
never
the...
thought of that.
And the pockets were going the wrong way.
But the problem is, the zip would be right out the back. We wouldn't have button or nothing, right?
You're asking the wrong man here, Stevie. I don't know why you're asking me.
I mean,
I never
full
thought
fighter
that.
outfit.
That might have worked.
Ali, I don't know why they've asked you this. Have you ever seen a more unintentional goal than Gula versus the States? What was Cardoso doing?
Yes, I have. In fact, actually, I've scored it. It was off my backside, and I wasn't even looking at the ball. So,
There you go.
Which cheek are you more dominant?
left.
Left cheek?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
The ball came from this angle. He went, wait a minute, all right. And I went and celebrated. I take
Yeah,
my goal.
why not?
My kind of range, they'll count the same.
Cheeky goal.
Yes.
Stevie, was there a player you coached at the Revs who surprised you by not getting the chance to move to Europe?
No,
Okay.
no. Chowri got a chance, but we didn't. That was because of us. Taylor Chalman had the chance, but he didn't because of us. Clint did. Raleigh.
Why are you
Raleigh was
mumbling?
good. I'm going through who I thought.
But it's like it's a
Go through
broadcast show.
every player, coach.
We're live,
Yeah.
Stevie.
There wasn't a player who had the opportunity to go. He should have gone.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Here we go then. What will the guys do this summer without football? Shaka, what are you up to?
I'm going to Colombia with my family.
Ooh.
Maybe I'll go watch Colombia against Venezuela.
That's till later in the year.
Maybe I'll just stay.
Very nice. So all 70 of you are going?
All seven.
Sounds like a lovely cheap trip.
Oh boy.
Has Radvan not thought about the Club World Cup?
Clearly not. Clearly not, Stevie, as you have. What are you going to be doing this summer, Stephen?
Watching the Club
Watching
World
the
Cup.
Club World Cup.
And while you're not doing that, what are your plans?
Watching the Gold
What
Cup.
are my plans?
Watching the Gold Cup.
Don't know. Getting comfy on a chair and relaxing
With your slippers on.
with my slippers on.
You're not
but-
travelling anywhere, doing any
I am
trips?
not traveling anywhere. No.
But now
absolutely
your
not.
slippers are all dirty. You can't bring them in the house.
No.
Don't tell Emma.
Now we're being asked to lie.
There we go. Ali,
What are you doing?
I'm getting a new liver.
You're the big winner. You're the big winner. I'll be going down to Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Oh, lovely. A traditional spot for the Morenos?
Well, no, but it's beachfront and there's some golf involved, so we'll take that as a win.
Oh, it's been quite hot down there, isn't it?
it's beachfront, and there's going to be some golf involved, and maybe the pool as well, Dan.
Beachfront, eh? Someone's done well.
Oh boy.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. Fancy.
Hey,
Fancy.
all those buttock goals. That is it then. That brings us to the end of today's show. ESPN FC back on your screens tomorrow. Ali's here because he's doing Football Americas.
What? No, I am not. Not according.
Kate Murray will be here as well, as you'll be taking us through the Nations League final. Stevie, you'll be here?
I can't wait.
Thank you, Stevie.
What will he be wearing?
Hopefully
I'm going to wear my slippers.
Slippers and the old...
I'm bringing my slippers.
Oh, lovely. What are you doing to your finger?
They can scrap.
Thank you for that, Stevie.